So you may have noticed before that we had drones flying around. Our mystery pilot is about to speak. Please welcome up Chris Anderson.
So I run a 3D robotics, a drone company, and we have a Tijuana drone factory, which many people have pointed out would be a great name for a band. So I just leave you with that as we start. I'm going to talk about something that people call biomimicry, which is basically lessons that we in robotics can learn from nature, and they're kind of general lessons, but I'm gonna swing a little bit and sort of say this is the kind of stuff that inspires me. So birds flap around and kind of figure things out. We do the same thing with drones. We used to program these things and say, well, here's exactly the dynamics of the whole thing. Here's the moments of inertia, et cetera. And now we're thinking maybe just flop around. Maybe you should just move around a little bit and you'll figure it out. That works. That's learning. That's machine learning, but we do it with the vehicles. Insects also don't see the world the way we do. Instead, they see motion. These compound eyes of flies allow them to emphasize motion really quickly so they can not get slapped. We can do the same thing, sense and avoid. The ability to not hit things is all about motion. If we can just blanket these drones with lots of little tiny sensors, little eyes, like a compound eye, we can avoid hitting things. Nature is great at wasting life. Tuna will give birth to thousands of eggs, and only a few of them will grow up to be tunas. But with drones and aircraft, we're like, they cannot crash. Congressional investigation. What if we could waste drones? What if we could make paper airplanes? This is a real one. The great thing about disposable drones is if they don't have to come back, it doubles the range. The batteries just go out until they finish the mission. Done. Mission accomplished. The nice thing about birds is they don't have to flap all the time. They sense the rising air currents, and they look for thermals, and they're extremely efficient about this. We can do this too. Birds can detect the upward motion of the hot air and selectively circle around that. We can use our sensors to do the same thing to extend the life. You probably saw that Facebook just bought a solar-powered drone company to offer internet access in places like Africa. Well, they'll do that by using the thermal characteristics to stay in the air longer. So insects don't see the world the way we do. They have infrared, they have ultraviolet vision, they have much further spectral range because flowers and other plants present themselves to insects in that range. We can do the same thing with crops. On the left is the Kunde Farm. It's a vineyard in Napa in regular black and white, and on the right it's in infrared. We put the two together, and we can then see the chlorophyll. Healthy chlorophyll is the green, unhealthy is the red. We can see the world the way an insect does. The way lots of animals work is that they just solve a problem in aggregate. They're like, what? No individual is going to figure this one out. We'll all figure it out together, and they swarm and they flock, and collectively they maximize the environment. We can do the same thing with these disposable drones. Rather than send one out to do a problem, we'll send 1,000 out. Maybe 900 come back, maybe 90 come back. But we can, in parallel, solve problems faster than any one individual can by using cheap, disposable life. With agriculture, we send these planes out and we spray these chemicals with a fire hose. Most of it gets on the ground, it's incredibly inefficient. But what if you didn't have to carry tanks of chemicals, and instead you could carry something like that little thing I was buzzing over Brady's head? So this is kind of what a drone looks like. This one's not fully autonomous, but that's kind of the size we're talking about. It's not quite Honeybee, but it's getting there. What if it could just deposit the chemicals exactly where they're needed, fertilizers where it's needed? They can basically hop from plant to plant rather than spray the ground. So the great thing about nature is that it's got time. It just sits there. We've got this guinea pig who's sits there all day waiting for us to come home. It's amazing. It's a little upsetting, but it's amazing. We can do the same thing. The great thing about robots is they do jobs that are dull, dirty, and dangerous with the emphasis on dull. They can just circle there. They never get bored. They just wait for something to happen. They don't feel bad about it. We can do that. When you get really, really small, it turns out you don't want to be spinning props. You don't even necessarily want fixing. You want to flap. Why do you want to flap? Well, there's a couple good things that happen. First of all, it scales down to really turbulent air. Flapping is great because it's turbulent. Secondly, you can hit things. And thirdly, you can glide in between. We can now do this with little micro drones. By flapping, we can glide when we want to, flap when we want to. We can bounce off walls. Power is a little issue. Batteries are a little issue. These things are still sort of cabled to the ground, but that's the way it's going to get micro. Finally, oh my God, aren't these amazing? These are chickens. They can stabilize their head. So here you have a chicken drone. Isn't that cool? Thank you very much.